Good afternoon. The topic is critical care in diabetes. So coming to the introduction, management of the diabetes and hyperglycemia in the ICU setting involves the diagnosis and management of two different situations. Non-diabetic mellitus, a patient admitted to the ICU and detected to have hyperglycemia for the first time. And diabetic mellitus, a known diabetic patient admitted to the ICU with complication which may or may not be related to the diabetes. Non-diabetic mellitus, they come to the ICU either with an undiagnosed DM or a stress hyperglycemia. And diabetic mellitus, they come to the ICU either with hypoglycemia, DKA, HHS, lactic acidosis, alcoholic ketoacidosis, other complications like AMA, CVS, stroke, head injury, trauma, drug overdose, or poisoning. The challenge is that the poor controlled diabetes predisposes to cardiovascular, renal, and infectious complications that often require intensive care, and they frequently occurs in the severely ill ICU patient with no prior history of the disease. Often diabetes itself is the primary problem as in the DKA and HHS. So coming to the glucose homeostasis, the normal glucose tolerance maintain their blood glucose concentration in individual with 70 to 100 milligram per DL. How you diagnose the criteria for the DM? Symptoms of the diabetes plus random blood glucose 200 milligram per DL, fasting plasma glucose 126 milligram per DL, or HbA1c is more than 6.5%, or 2-hour plasma glucose 200 milligram per DL during an oral glucose tolerance test. The main goal, what should you do? A patient with a diabetes are first, minimize the disruption of the metabolic state, management of the biochemical disturbance, provide adequate nutrition support, prevent adverse glycemic events, especially hypoglycemia and acute complication, return the patient to a stable glycemic balance as quickly as possible. How do you evaluate the critically patient with the diabetes? Type 1 diabetes require insulin treatment at all time, but type 2 diabetes may not. Diabetes that is secondary to some other disorder require diagnosis and treatment of the precipitating factors. Duration, more the chance of associated complication. And presence of the diabetes complication like cardiac function, peripheral circulation, autonomic neuropathy. How you suspect the autonomic neuropathy? With an abnormal pupillary response to light or absence of the heart rate response means RR interval change noted in the ECG during the Valsalva maneuver, and also complication of the renal function and retinopathy. So next is the degree of the previous glycemic control. Poorly controlled diabetes may imply poor nutrition. So thiamine in particular is a critical cofactor in carbohydrate metabolism, and patients with uncontrolled diabetes may be thiamine deficient. And delayed wound healing and poor resistance to infection. And type 2 diabetes are frequently hyperlipidemia and may develop pancreatitis when poorly controlled. Number 5, secondary cause of the diabetes, disease of the exocrine pancreas like pancreatitis, pancreatomy, endocrinopathies like acromegaly, Cushing syndrome, drug or chemical induced like glucocorticoid, if present, should be treated promptly. So as you know, all the complications of the diabetes like retinopathy, nephropathy, peripheral neuropathy, stroke, head disease, and autonomic neuropathy. So how we are going to evaluate the critically ill patient with diabetes? In addition to this retrospective assessment, prospective assessment requires continuously updated information on glycemic status, accurate bedside blood glucose monitoring, and glucose meter measurement can be influenced with hematocrit, creatinine concentration, plasma protein concentration, and PO2. So what are the factors that complicated in patient with diabetes management? Why there is hyperglycemia? Either release of the stress hormone, glucagon, epinephrine, medication like vasopressors, beta blockers, overfeeding of the parent or parental nutrition, they all lead to the volume hyperglycemia, which lead to volume deletion, electrolyte trauma, cardiovascular failure, higher insulin treatment, intensive glucose control. All these things they lead to hypoglycemia. So what happened? There will be altered mental status, seizure, permanent CNS injury. So how do you treat the hyperglycemia in the ICU in non-DKA and non-HHS patient? All ICU patients with plasma glucose concentration persistently above 180 milligram per DL continuous IV infusion of the regular insulin to be given. Oral hypoglycemic agents should not be used. Their absorption and metabolism and excretion cannot be predicted in the critically ill patient. Sulfonylurea, there will be severe hypoglycemia. Metformin, there will be lactic acidosis in the setting of the renal failure. As you know, if you look at the AAC and consensus statement on the inpatient glycemic control in ICU, the glucose target should be 140 to 180 milligram per DL. Lower target you can do if the hospital is achieving this successfully, that is 110 to 140. So the tighter target less than 110, not safe, and more than 180, not acceptable. So how to give the insulin infusion protocol for the adults? There are 3 steps we give in the ICU. One in the getting started, blood glucose monitoring, and adjusting infusion rate. So what you will do, the getting started in the insulin infusion protocol. The nurse to routinely monitor the blood glucose, alter the physician if any 2 blood glucose values are more than 180. Physician to order and initiate the IIP. Insulin infusion solution obtained from the pharmacy, like 1 unit regular human insulin or 1 ml of the 0.9% sodium chloride. Before connecting, floss 20 cc of the infusion through all tubing. Please advise to all the ICU staff nurses because they prepare and they give the drugs to the patient. And administration via infusion from 0.5 unit per hour increment. So how we are going to getting started? The bolus initial infusion rate, divide the initial blood glucose level by 100, then round to the nearest 0.5 unit per bolus and initial infusion rate. So suppose some blood glucose is 325 divided by 100, so 3.25, so it round to 3.5. So IV bolus is 3.5 unit plus start the infusion at the rate of 3.5 units per hour. So next, blood glucose monitoring. You have given the insulin. How we are going to in the ICU make the blood glucose monitoring? Monitor the blood glucose once in 1 hour. When 3 consecutive blood glucose levels are within the target, reduce the blood glucose monitoring to once in 2 hours. Is stable for 12 to 24 hours, may space the blood glucose check to once in 4 hours. Again, you can resume hourly check until stable again if any blood glucose out of range, any change in insulin infusion rate, any significant change in clinical condition, initiation and discontinuation of the steroid, vasopressor, TPN, PPN, tube feeds, dialysis, CDVH, CABH, you have to resume hourly checks until stable again. You have to be very cautious that who are vasoconstricted and hypotensive, those patients, capillary blood glucose finger stick may be inaccurate. So venous or arterial blood is preferred in the setting. So next, how you are going to adjust the infusion rate? When the blood glucose is more than 100 per DL, suppose it is a 100 to 139. So what you will do? Or if it is, let us calculate like blood glucose 140 to 129. If the blood glucose is increased by 50 milligram per DL per hour, then infusion you have to give by 2 delta. Same with if the blood glucose is more than 200. Suppose the blood glucose is 100 to 139 milligram per DL, and you are seeing that the blood glucose is increasing by 25 milligram per DL per hour. If the blood glucose is 140 to 129, and you are seeing the blood glucose is increasing by more than 1 to 55 milligram per DL per hour. If the blood glucose is more than 200, the blood glucose is unchanged. Then what you will do the infusion? You give the infusion by delta. So like this, you have to make. Suppose the blood glucose is going down. Suppose in patient had 100 to 139, the blood glucose is down by 26 to 50 milligram per DL per hour. Suppose the blood glucose are 140 to 129 and the patient glucose is going down by 51 to 75 milligram per DL per hour. If the blood glucose is more than 200, it is going down to 76 to 100. What you will do? There you decrease the infusion by delta. So what do you mean by delta? So current rate is less than 3. Suppose you are giving the delta is rate of change, means unit per hour, that is 0.5. 2 delta means 2 into rate change unit per hour, that is 1. Suppose this is 3 to 6 current rate, then you give delta 1 and 2 delta 2. So suppose ICU infusion you have given, the blood glucose is less than 100. If the blood glucose is less than 50, discontinue insulin infusion. D5 IV, recheck the blood glucose every 50 minutes until more than 90. Then recheck every 1 hour. When more than 140, wait 30 minutes, restart insulin at 50% of most recent rate. If the blood glucose is 50 to 74, discontinue insulin infusion, administer the half ampoule 12.5 gram D50 IV, recheck the blood glucose every 50 minutes until 90. And when it is become 140, then wait 30 minutes, then restart the infusion at 50% of most recent rate. Suppose blood glucose is 75 to 99, discontinue insulin infusion, recheck the blood glucose every 50 minutes until blood glucose reaches the remain more than 90, then recheck the blood glucose every 1 hour. When more than 140, wait 30 minutes, then reset the infusion at 75% of most recent rate. So let us come. What are the glycemic control recommendation based on the patient condition? Suppose non-diabetic ICU patient, glucose control recommendation 140 to 180. Diabetic ICU patient, HbA1c less than 7, 140 to 180. If HbA1c is more than 7, 200, more than 200. Surgical ICU, if ICU stay is for more than 3 days, ventilator dependent or dialysis or with cardiac comorbidity, less than 150. Neurocritical ICU patient, if less than 180, if hypoglycemia can be prevented, you can go up to 110 to 140. If not, you can maintain with 140 to 180. STEMI ICU patient less than 200. Sepsis ICU patient less than 180. So diabetes and kidney care. You have to remember, after giving that certain part of the organ, you have to be very careful. You have to promptly recognize the patient with diabetes who are at risk of diabetic kidney disease, like avoidance of the nephrotoxin, like aminoglycoside, non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs, use of intravenous contrast only if no alternatives are available with appropriate renal protection. Next comes in the ICU problematic is the infection control. So diabetic impact tissue perfusion and lazy leukocyte syndrome cause delayed wound healing. So Staphylococcus MRSA, Candida, Mycobacterium, Pseudomonas, E. coli infection are very common. Common infection diabetes, URTI, LRTI, periodontal infection, genitourinary infection, abdominal infection, and SSTI. And acute cardiovascular complication in diabetes. As you know, cardiovascular disease accounts for roughly 80% of the mortality in patients with diabetes. So diabetic patients have 1.5 to 2 times greater morbidity risk from acute myocardial infarction than non-diabetic patients. The principal factors for this include increased incidence of the congestive cardiac failure, reinfarction, recurrent ischemia. So diabetes is not a contraindication for beta blocker or for fibrinolytic therapy in acute MI, as per the recent study says. And the diabetic patient have a high rate of the restenosis, post-PTCA, and the bypass angioplasty. And what are the nutritional support in patient with diabetes? Patients receiving enteral nutrition, a continuous insulin infusion may provide optimal glycemic control. Alternatively, subcutaneous insulin may be used. Patient receiving hyperalimentation develops severe hyperglycemia and a large insulin requirement. So consider reducing the amount of carbohydrate. And nutritional support in patient with diabetes. Diabetic patient receiving parenteral nutrition have 5-fold higher rate of central catheter related infection compared with non-diabetic. So when you are putting a central line, you have to be very careful. Hypertriglyceridemia is frequent in patient with diabetes. It can cause pancreatitis if the patient triglyceride level is more than 400 milligram per DL. The lipid component of the parenteral nutrition should be withheld. Initial regimen, 1 unit of the insulin for every 15 gram per hour carbohydrate in the TP and infusion. Obese patient with type 2 diabetes and significant resistance, 1 unit for every 3.5 gram of the carbohydrate. Then thin type of diabetes 1 patient, 1 unit of every 20 gram of the carbohydrate. What are the acute complications of the diabetes mellitus? As you know, DKA, HHS, both associated with absolute or relative insulin deficiency, volume depletion, acid bed abnormality. DKA and HHS exist along a continuum of the hyperglycemia. Another complication is the hypoglycemia. So as you know, what are the characteristics of the DKA and HHS? Generally, the DKA develops over hour to 1 to 2 days and HHS develops over days to weeks. So in DKA, as you know, plasma glucose more than 200. Here the plasma glucose is more than 600. Arterial pH is less than 7.3. More than here it is more than 7.3. Bicarbonate less than 15 milligram per liter. Here the bicarbonate is more than 15. Moderate ketonuria or ketonemia. Here minimal ketonuria and ketonemia. NNM gap is more than 12 milligram per liter. And here the serum osmolality is more than 320 milliosmol per liter. So what are the Precipitating factor for the DK and HHS, either you have omission or reduced insulin dose, infection, pancreatitis, MI, severe burn, CVA, drugs like diuretics, steroid, beta-glucan, and CCB. So clinically, how do you diagnose dehydration, tachypnea, deep signing Kussmaul's respiration? If a patient DK is not tachypneic, the physician should suspect that severe acidosis, pH less than 7.1 is depressing the respiratory drive. You have to be very careful. Other symptoms like nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, an acute abdominal condition, confusion, drowsiness, progressive upturness, and loss of consciousness. So this is a table diagram. I just very gistly I'm telling you. Start with all this patient with high IV fluid. Common prefer is the 0.9 sodium chloride we give for 0.9%. And you can give bicarbonate if the bicarbonate level is less than 6.9. Insulin regular we can give by the IV route for diabetic ketoacidosis and HHS. How much? 0.1 microgram per kg per body weight as IV bolus. Then 0.1 microgram kg per hour IV continuous insulin infusion. Potassium, you have to look for what is the potassium also. If the potassium is less than 3.3, hold insulin, give 20 to 30 milligram per hour potassium till it becomes 3.3. If the potassium more than 5.2, then do not give potassium, but check the serum potassium every 2 hours. So if the potassium is 3.3 to 5.2, then give 20 to 30 milligram potassium in each liter of the IV fluid to keep the serum potassium between 4 to 5 milligram per liter. As you know, the hypoglycemia is a very complication. So in a ICU setup, what should you do? First, you diagnose. If the hypoglycemia means blood glucose less than 70, severe hypoglycemia less than 40. So this is all. What are the adrenergic? Is the patient symptoms is like fall of blood glucose, tremor, shaking, palpitation, sweating. That's called warning symptom. If neurogyclopenic, then related to absolute level of the blood glucose like confusion, convulsion, and coma. So hypoglycemia may be acute or chronic, neurological convulsion, hypoglycemic hemiplegia, psychological mental slowness, inappropriate behavior. In the chronic, the patient with ICU may, the patient for a long standing, they can stay, you can find out persistent vegetative state, hemiparesis, ataxia, psychological like cognitive impairment and psychosis. So what are the effects of the hypoglycemia? As you know, on heart rate, systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, and pulse pressure, workload on the heart. So underlying you can go to underlying coronary artery disease, myocardial ischemia, silent or symptomatic AMI. So how do you manage the hypoglycemia? If the patient is conscious, you can give the carbohydrate rich fruit juice and exclude hypothermia. Unconscious, you can start with the glucose to 250 ml of the 10% dextrose IV and exclude hypothermia. Unconscious, timely venous access impossible. So blood glucose estimation from any vein, femoral also you can take. Give 1 milligram glucagon or subcutaneous or IM or buccal glucose gel or smear jam inside the cheek if possible and exclude hypothermia. Full symptomatic recovery occurs if oral, then recheck capillary blood glucose, provide a carbohydrate rich meal, establish the cause of the decreased glucose. If oral sulfonylurea hypoglycemia, then start 5% dextrose and refer for admission. And if the patient is was unconscious, which we have started with the fluid, you have to again recheck the capillary blood glucose, slow the infusion of the 10% dextrose to keep the blood glucose at 10 to 15 millimole per liter and get the help. So in the hypoglycemic coma, that overall summarize is that 50% glucose, 50 ml IV to start, and full recovery, you wait for that. Suppose by the patient has gone to coma, other factors you have to exclude in the differential diagnosis of the hypoglycemia, poisoning, alcohol, SAH, other intracranial catastrophes. You can go for a CT scan, brain, CHS analysis, and EZ. Irreversible coma, how you anti-edema measure like 20% mannitol, 200 ml IV in 20 minutes sedation, you can give like dexamethasone. Also, you can give like 6 milligram 6 hourly, maintain the blood glucose 10 and 15 millimole per liter. What is the special problem we come across? If the ICU patient go for a dialysis, in the peritoneal diabetes patient, admixture glucose and insulin in the diastolate, maintain on a continuous low dose insulin infusion at all time to ensure insulation, hyperalimentation of the diabetes, admixture the insulin with parenteral nutrition formulation, although a common practice can be problematic. Dose would be limited to less than 50% of the total insulin requirement, residual to be given by IV insulin drip or subcutaneous injection. Fructose, sorbitol, other total parental nutrition formulation have occasionally led to lactic acidosis. And diabetic kidney agent, acute hyperglycemia appear to be an independent risk factor for the development of the contrast-induced nephropathy. The risk of the CIN is pre-existing renal insufficiency, hypotension, congestive heart failure, and anemia. Currently, evidence supports the use of infusion of the sodium-bicarb 154 milliequivalent per liter, 3 ml per kg per hour for 1 hour before the contrast exposure, followed by an infusion of the 1 ml per kg per hour for 6 hours after the procedure. So to take home message, the key to successful care of the very ill patient with diabetes is careful monitoring of the glycemia and first dose treatment with a continuous infusion of the regular insulin. Bedside blood glucose determination make this intensive metabolic care possible, and target blood glucose should be 140 to 180 in the critically ill patient. Protocol-based insulin therapy. Diabetic comas are often described as discrete entities, but they frequently present as overlapping disorder. Initial treatment of all diabetic coma must always emphasize fluid and electrolyte. With care, nearly all patients with DKA and most with HHS can survive. Thank you.